Mark's boots clicked softly against the polished floor of the alien palace. Every step echoed like a heartbeat in the massive hall, a sound both foreign and oddly comforting. He had traveled light years from Earth, sent on a mission he never imagined would change his life. His task was clear: guard Princess Lyria, the daughter of the powerful alien Queen of Zareth. He was a soldier, trained to fight, trained to protect, but nothing had prepared him for the weight of guarding someone so young, so precious, and so unlike anyone he had ever met. The palace itself was breathtaking. Towers of crystal stretched into the sky, shimmering under the glow of twin suns. The walls seemed alive, pulsating with faint energy, and the air smelled faintly of sweet minerals, unlike anything Mark had known on Earth. Alien beings moved gracefully through the halls, their luminescent skin reflecting soft light. Some had wings, some walked on multiple legs, and all of them looked at him with curiosity. To them he was a stranger, a human, fragile in form, but carrying the confidence and determination of someone who had faced death many times. Princess Lyria waited in her chamber, a tall room with windows that looked over the endless cityscape. Her hair seemed to glow faintly in the soft light, and her eyes, large, violet, and impossibly deep, watched him with a mixture of curiosity and caution. She was barely 16, small and delicate compared to the alien soldiers who flanked her, but she carried herself with dignity. Her lips trembled slightly as she took in the stranger assigned to her safety. "I'm Mark," he said simply, offering a small nod. "I'm here to protect you." She studied him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face. Then she whispered almost to herself, "You're human." Her voice was soft, curious, and a little fearful. "Yes," he replied, "and I won't let anyone hurt you." Lyria tilted her head, and Mark noticed a faint tremor in her hand as she reached toward the balcony railing. The palace was quiet tonight, but danger was always a whisper in her world. Rebels had tried to overthrow her family before, and threats lurked even in the most peaceful moments. Mark moved closer instinctively, placing a hand gently near hers, not touching, just enough to give her a sense of safety. She looked at him, startled, then nodded ever so slightly. The night outside was strange and beautiful. 2 moons hung in the sky, casting silver and blue light across the palace gardens. Strange plants with translucent leaves glowed faintly, and alien birds with wings like stained glass fluttered between the trees. Mark kept his eyes on the horizon, scanning for anything unusual, while Lyria whispered stories about her world. She spoke slowly, almost shyly, trying to teach him words he did not understand, yet he listened carefully. Every word, every movement made him feel a responsibility far heavier than any weapon he carried. Mark realized something then, a truth that hit him like a comet. This mission was no longer just about duty. It was about connection. He had to protect her not just with his strength, but with his heart. Humans had weaknesses, yes, but their courage and care could reach across worlds, and as he watched Lyria, small and trembling, a spark of determination flared inside him. He would stand between her and every danger that tried to touch her. He would fight, bleed, and if necessary, die to keep her safe. For the first time in his life, Mark understood that protecting someone could change a person entirely. The princess was fragile, but in her fragility lay a beauty and a strength that humans often overlooked. And as he stood there guarding the young princess under twin moons, Mark knew that this mission, this choice, would define him forever. The galaxy was vast, and humans were small. But in that small human heart, there could be courage strong enough to protect a princess and perhaps change an entire world. The night air was thick with tension. Mark stood guard outside Princess Lyria's chamber, his eyes scanning every shadow, every glimmer of light. He had grown used to the palace's strange quiet, the hum of alien energy flowing through its walls, but tonight felt different. There was a tension in the air, a silent whisper that danger was near. Suddenly, alarms shattered the stillness. A piercing wail echoed through the palace halls, and red warning lights bathed the crystal floors. The rebels had struck. They were fast, silent, and ruthless, moving through the palace corridors like shadows made of smoke. Mark's heart raced, but his training kicked in instantly. Every muscle, every sense, every thought was focused on one thing: protect Lyria. He kicked open her chamber door just as strange, shape-shifting creatures slipped through the hallways. They had multiple limbs, eyes glowing with red fury, and teeth that looked like carved crystal. Lyria froze, fear and surprise washing over her delicate face. "Run!" Mark shouted, grabbing her hand and pulling her behind a thick pillar. He could feel her small hand trembling against his. He wanted to tell her it would be okay, but words felt useless against the swarm of danger approaching. The first attack came fast. One creature lunged toward Lyria, and Mark threw himself in front of her without a second thought. Pain shot through his shoulder as the creature struck him, but he didn't fall. Humans were fragile, yes, but their courage often surprised alien worlds. He swung his rifle, firing a pulse of energy that sent the attacker staggering backward. Lyria clung to him, her tiny body pressed against his side. "Mark," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I'm scared." "I know," he replied, his voice low but firm. "But I'm here. I won't let them touch you." The creatures were relentless. They twisted and changed shape, attacking from every direction. But Mark's training and quick thinking kept him ahead. He threw himself between Lyria and danger time and again, shielding her body, moving her away from the creature's strikes, and using every ounce of strength he had. Hours, or maybe minutes, he couldn't tell, passed in a blur of chaos and noise. The palace walls shook, crystal fragments falling like rain, yet Mark never faltered. He was human, yes, but his will had become something bigger than flesh and bone. It was a shield, a promise, a force born from care and courage. Finally, the last creature fell, dissolving into a cloud of red sparks. Silence returned, but it felt heavier now, full of the tension left behind by danger. Mark lowered his weapon, chest heaving, shoulder aching from the strike he had taken. Lyria pressed herself against him, tears running down her glowing cheeks. "You saved me," she whispered, her voice breaking with relief and awe. Mark swallowed the lump in his throat. "I promised I would," he said softly. He wanted to tell her more, that he had risked everything because she mattered, because her life had become more important than his own, but words felt too small for such a truth. That night, as they tended to the palace's wounded and rebuilt what had been destroyed, something shifted. Lyria looked at him not just as a guard, but as someone she could trust with her life, someone who would never leave her side. And Mark realized, deep in his heart, that this mission was no longer just about duty. It was about loyalty, about connection, and about the fragile, powerful bond that could exist between a human and an alien princess. Sitting outside her chamber later, Mark watched the twin moons shine over the city. Lyria had fallen asleep, her head resting on a soft pillow, her small hands tucked close to her chest. He felt a strange warmth in his heart, a feeling he could not name. Protecting her had been instinct, yes, but it had also become something more, a promise, a purpose, and a reason to stay alive in a world that felt suddenly vast and dangerous. Humans were fragile, but courage, love, and determination could make them formidable. And Mark knew, as he watched over the sleeping princess, that nothing, not alien rebels, not weapons, not even fear, could break the bond that had begun tonight. Days passed in the palace after the attack, and life slowly began to return to its strange, glittering rhythm. The crystal walls hummed softly, and alien servants moved gracefully along the halls. But for Mark, nothing had returned to normal. Every time he looked at Princess Lyria, he felt a strange mix of responsibility, admiration, and something more. Something he didn't yet understand. The princess had changed too. The attack had shaken her, yes, but it had also sparked a fire. She no longer trembled when he entered her room. Instead, she met his gaze with quiet determination, a new confidence that seemed to radiate from her small frame. Mark noticed it in the way she walked, in the way she held her head high, even when shadows flickered across the palace corridors. She was growing, and he felt honored to witness it, honored to be the one standing between her and the dangers of the galaxy. "Mark," she said one afternoon, her voice soft but steady, "will humans always fight like you did?" He smiled faintly, sitting beside her in the palace garden where alien flowers shimmered in soft colors he could not name. "Some do," he replied. "Humans are small and fragile in many ways, but we fight for what matters. We protect those we care about." Lyria tilted her head, studying him with wide eyes. "You care about me?" "Yes," he said simply, letting the word hang in the air. He didn't explain why, because words could not capture the promise and determination that had been born in the fire of the last attack. Protecting her was no longer just duty. It had become something deeper, something that had carved its mark on his heart. The days passed with lessons and stories. Mark taught her about Earth, about humans and their strange, complicated ways. He told her of oceans and mountains, of winter nights and summer storms, of courage and mistakes and triumphs. Lyria laughed at his tales, sometimes squealing with delight at the odd customs humans followed. In return, she showed him the wonders of Zareth, the glowing forests, the floating lakes, the songs of alien birds that made his heart ache with beauty. One evening, under the twin moons, Lyria leaned against him as they walked through the palace gardens. The flowers shimmered faintly in the moonlight, casting soft reflections across their faces. "I don't want to be alone anymore," she whispered. "You won't be," Mark said, resting a hand gently on her shoulder. "I'll be here, always." A silence settled between them, comfortable and deep. The universe felt enormous, full of unknown dangers, yet at that moment, the two of them created a small world that belonged only to them. He realized then that he had begun to care for her in a way he had never cared for anyone before. And somehow he knew that she trusted him, not just as her guard, but as someone who understood her, someone who would face anything for her. But the bond was not without its challenges. The palace staff whispered about a human staying so close to the princess. Some envied him, some distrusted him, and some feared what this connection might mean. Yet the alien queen watched silently, observing not just his skill but his heart. She saw what Lyria could not yet see herself. That Mark's humanity was not a weakness but a strength. Courage, loyalty, and love. These were qualities her daughter could learn from him and perhaps even from them together. Mark often wondered what his place in this strange world truly was. He was far from Earth, far from everything he had known, but for the first time he felt a sense of purpose that went beyond orders, beyond rank, beyond duty. Protecting Lyria had become his life, his reason to wake each day in a galaxy that could so easily be cruel and unforgiving. As they stood together, watching the twin moons rise high over the palace, Mark felt a quiet determination settle in his chest. Humans might be fragile, yes, but their hearts carried a strength that could change worlds. And he would protect Lyria, not just with weapons or skill, but with every ounce of his humanity. The bond between them was no longer just about life and death. It was about trust, hope, and the courage to face whatever darkness might come. And in that fragile but unbreakable bond, both Mark and the princess discovered something neither had expected. A connection strong enough to defy fear, strong enough to shine even in the coldest reaches of space. The palace halls were quiet now, but Mark could feel the weight of unseen eyes on him. He had grown used to the whispers of the staff, the curious stares of alien servants, and even the cautious glances of the princess. But nothing compared to the presence of the alien queen. She was magnificent, her form tall and commanding, her eyes shimmering with wisdom and authority that could pierce through any lie. Mark had heard of her reputation, ruthless when she needed to be, brilliant in strategy, and protective of her daughter beyond reason. Many had tried to serve her and failed. Yet tonight she summoned him, not with fear, not with anger, but with a calm that unsettled him more than any attack ever could. "You have grown close to my daughter," she said, her voice smooth yet carrying a weight that pressed against his chest. "Do you understand what it means to serve her, human?" Mark straightened. "Yes, Your Majesty. I am here to protect her no matter what." Her eyes narrowed slightly. Protection is not enough. Loyalty must be absolute, and courage must shine even when all seems lost. "You have shown bravery in battle, yes, but the true test is the heart. Why do you risk so much for her? Is it duty, or is it something more?" Mark hesitated, knowing that words could fail him. How could he explain the bond that had grown naturally, the quiet understanding that had formed between him and the princess? He could not simply say, "I care for her." That answer would sound small against the vast power and authority of the alien queen, yet he knew honesty was the only way forward. "Because it is right," he said finally. "Because she is innocent and she deserves to live. I protect her because she matters, because she is important." The queen's eyes softened ever so slightly. She circled him slowly, her presence filling the room like a storm contained in beauty. "Perhaps humans are more than fragile creatures," she murmured. "Perhaps courage is not measured in strength alone. You have shown heart, and heart matters more than you realize." Mark felt a weight lift just slightly. He had fought battles across galaxies, faced creatures no human could imagine, but the queen's words, her acknowledgement, felt like a victory deeper than any fight. He had earned respect in a world not his own, not with brute force, but with courage, integrity, and care. Yet the Queen was not done. She paused, her gaze piercing him like a blade of light. Loyalty is tested in the shadows of choice. There will come a day when your heart will be tempted. If you fail, if your emotions put her at risk, you will leave this world forever. Understand this, human. You are not free to stay unless you prove yourself worthy, not just as a soldier, but as a protector of my daughter and my people. Mark swallowed hard. The test was clear. His bond with Lyria, the connection he had nurtured, could be his greatest strength or his greatest weakness. He realized then that courage was not just about facing enemies with weapons. Courage was about standing firm when your heart could betray you, when affection and duty collided, and when the stakes were life itself. "I understand, Your Majesty," he said, his voice steady. "I will not fail her. I will protect her, whatever it takes." The Queen regarded him silently for a long moment, then finally nodded. "We shall see, human. But know this, the galaxy watches and your actions will echo across worlds. You may yet surprise us all." As she turned and left, Mark felt a strange mixture of pride and fear. The challenge had been laid before him. Not a battle of strength, not a fight with weapons, but a test of humanity, of heart, and of loyalty. Later, Mark returned to Lyria's side, finding her studying the twin moons through her balcony window. She glanced at him and smiled faintly, unaware of the Queen's scrutiny, unaware of the silent test that now hung over his every action. Mark placed a hand gently on the railing beside her. "We'll face whatever comes next," he said softly. "Together." She leaned on him, and he realized that protecting her was no longer just a duty, it was a promise. And now more than ever, he understood that courage was not only about fighting enemies, but about standing unwavering for those who could not protect themselves. Humans were fragile. Yes, but in the right moments, their hearts could shine brighter than alien suns, and Mark had just begun to discover the strength of that light. The day began quietly, but Mark sensed a tension lingering in the palace air. The twin suns cast long shadows across the crystal towers, and the normally calm corridors were filled with a restless energy. Princess Lyria moved among her people, smiling politely, but Mark could see the worry in her eyes. Something was coming, he could feel it. His instincts proved correct. Midday, the alarms blared again, echoing through the city. The rebels had struck, capturing the outer districts and threatening to reach the palace before reinforcements could arrive. Mark's heart raced, but he forced himself to remain calm. This was no longer just about guarding Lyria in the palace. Now he had to lead, to make decisions that would save hundreds of lives, including the princesses. "Mark," Lyria called, running to his side. Her usual composure was replaced by fear, and for the first time she looked small and fragile despite her royal presence. "We have to move quickly," he said firmly. "Stay close to me. I will protect you." He gathered a small team, humans and trusted alien soldiers, and led them through secret corridors and hidden passages. The city outside was chaos. Rebel ships hovered above, casting shadows over buildings as they fired strange, glowing weapons. Civilians fled, alien guards fought bravely, and the streets became a battlefield unlike any Mark had ever seen. Mark's mind worked quickly. Human ingenuity had saved lives countless times before, and now, even on this alien world, his strategies made a difference. He directed teams, coordinated attacks, and predicted the rebels' moves with a precision born of experience and instinct. Lyria watched him in awe, seeing not just her protector but a leader whose courage inspired everyone around him. At one critical moment, a massive explosion threatened to trap them in a collapsing street. Without hesitation, Mark shoved Lyria behind him, taking the brunt of the debris himself. Pain shot through his body, but he gritted his teeth and kept moving. Humans were fragile, yes, but their will to protect those they cared about could defy even the harshest odds. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only moments, the team managed to drive the rebels back, securing the city and restoring order. Mark's plan had worked, but the cost was clear. He bore bruises, cuts, and exhaustion that he could not hide. Lyria ran to him as soon as the danger passed, throwing her arms around him. "I knew you'd come," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I knew you wouldn't let them take me." Mark held her close, feeling the weight of responsibility lift slightly, but also realizing the deeper truth. He had chosen this world, chosen to fight for her, chosen to risk everything. At that moment, the alien queen appeared. She had watched the battle from the palace, her expression unreadable. Her eyes studied Mark as she stepped closer. "You have shown bravery, skill, and heart," she said, her voice echoing with authority. "But more than that, you have shown loyalty to my daughter and my people. That loyalty is rare and it cannot be ignored." Mark straightened, feeling a mix of pride and fear. The queen's next words struck him like a hammer. "You will not leave this world. You belong here now by her side as protector, mentor, and guardian. Your choice has been made for you." Mark froze. Belong here? He was human. He had a life back on Earth. Yet as he looked at Lyria, her eyes filled with trust and gratitude, he realized that leaving was impossible. His heart, once anchored to duty, was now anchored to this alien world, to this princess, to the bond they had built in fire and fear. Lyria reached up and held his hand, her grip small but firm. "Please don't go," she whispered. Mark swallowed hard, feeling emotion surge through him. He had started as a stranger, a soldier sent to guard a princess. Now he was something more, a protector in every sense, someone whose humanity had touched an entire world. As the twin suns set over the city, Mark knew the truth. Humans were fragile, yes, but in courage, loyalty, and love, they could be stronger than empires. And in this galaxy, on this alien world, he had found his place, his purpose, and perhaps the family he never knew he needed. The palace was quiet now, but the echoes of the day's battle lingered in every hall. Mark moved slowly through the crystal corridors, his body aching from the fight, his mind restless with thoughts he could not quiet. He had done everything he could to protect Princess Lyria, to lead and defend, and yet the weight of what the alien queen might decide pressed on him like a stone. Lyria found him near the balcony, watching the twin suns dip toward the horizon. Her eyes glowed softly in the fading light, full of worry and hope. "Mark," she whispered, stepping close, "what will she say?" "Will she let you stay?" He turned to her, meeting her gaze. He had fought countless battles, faced enemies that could crush armies, but the uncertainty in the queen's judgment felt heavier than any weapon. "I don't know," he admitted softly. "But whatever she decides, I'll do my best to protect you no matter what." The alien queen appeared then, moving like a shadow of light, her presence commanding the space around her. She studied Mark carefully, her eyes as sharp and piercing as the stars above. "Mark," she said finally, her voice smooth yet full of authority, "you have shown what it truly means to protect my daughter, not only with your strength but with your heart." Mark straightened, feeling a mixture of relief and tension. He had fought, risked his life, and proven his loyalty. But the queen's approval was more than just recognition. It was acceptance into a world that was not his own. "You are human," she continued, "and yet your courage, your loyalty, and your compassion are qualities rare even among the strongest of my people. You have not only saved my daughter, but earned the respect of this entire palace. For that you will stay." Mark's heart thumped in his chest. He had trained to survive, to fight, to protect, but he had never expected this. Acceptance from a world so alien, a place so unlike Earth. "I thank you, Your Majesty," he said, voice steady but heavy with emotion. "I will continue to protect her and serve your people to the best of my ability." The queen nodded, and a faint smile softened her regal features. "You will stay not as a prisoner, but as guardian, teacher, and protector. Your humanity is a gift to Zareth, Mark. Without it, my daughter may not have survived the challenges she faced, nor those she will face in the future." Lyria stepped forward then, placing her small hand on Mark's arm. "See? You belong here," she whispered, her eyes glimmering with trust and warmth. "I knew you would never leave me, and now the queen knows it too." Mark felt emotion swell in his chest. Protecting Lyria had started as duty, had grown into something more than he could explain, and now this world, the people, the princess, even the queen herself, accepted him for who he was. His heart, once cautious and distant, now felt full. He looked around at the palace, at the shimmering walls, at the alien guards and staff who had come to respect him, and realized something profound. He was far from Earth, far from the world he had known, yet he had found a purpose larger than himself. Here on this alien planet he could make a difference. He could protect, inspire, and be more than just a soldier. The queen placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. "Humans are fragile, yes," she said softly, But in courage, loyalty, and heart, they are capable of shaping destinies. You have shown us this. Remember it, Mark nodded, swallowing hard. He understood now that staying was not a punishment or a burden. It was a gift, a chance to be part of something greater than himself. And most importantly, it was a chance to protect the person who had come to mean everything to him, Princess Lyria. The twin suns set completely, casting the city in twilight, and Mark stood beside Lyria, feeling the weight of responsibility and the warmth of belonging. He was human, fragile and small, yet in his heart burned a courage strong enough to protect a princess and touch an entire world. As they looked out over the city together, he whispered quietly, almost to himself, "I'm home now." And for the first time, Mark truly believed it. The palace was quiet in the early morning, the twin suns just beginning to rise over the crystalline towers of Zareth. Mark stood on the balcony with Princess Lyria beside him, the cool alien breeze brushing their faces. The city below was alive again, full of movement, laughter, and hope. It was a new day, a day that marked a turning point, not just for the princess, but for him. He had faced battles, danger, and fear, yet none of that compared to the moment he fully realized that he belonged here. This world, once foreign and intimidating, now felt like home. The people he had protected, the princess whose trust he had earned, and even the alien queen who had tested his heart, all of it made him feel part of something greater than himself. Lyria looked up at him, her violet eyes filled with admiration and something softer, deeper. "Mark," she whispered, "I don't know what I would have done without you. You stayed when everyone else could only watch. You fought for me, not because you had to, but because you wanted to." Mark's chest tightened. He knelt beside her, taking her small hands in his. "I stayed because it was the right thing to do," he said quietly. "Because I couldn't let anything happen to you. You're not just a princess, Lyria, you're important. To me, to your people, to this world." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Words felt too small to express what they both felt. And yet, in that silence, a connection spoke louder than any language, louder than any battle or struggle. It was trust, loyalty, and the quiet power of human courage, the kind that could change hearts, nations, and even worlds. The alien queen appeared then, her regal form cutting a calm figure against the morning light. She studied them silently, and then a soft smile crossed her face. "Mark," she said, her voice warm but firm, "you have proven what it truly means to be human. Strength, courage, loyalty, and heart, qualities rare even among my people. You have protected my daughter, earned the respect of my court, and shown that humanity, though fragile, is capable of greatness." Mark bowed his head slightly, feeling the weight of her words settle in his chest. He had never sought glory, never wanted recognition, yet the queen's acknowledgement filled him with a sense of belonging he had never felt on earth. "You will stay," she continued, "not as a visitor, not as a soldier, but as a part of Zareth. You are family now, and your courage will guide us in the days to come." Mark's gaze returned to Lyria, who smiled softly, her hand still resting in his. He realized in that moment that the bond they had formed, the trust, the shared fears, the quiet moments of care, had transformed them both. She was no longer just a princess in need of protection. She was a friend, a confidant, someone whose life he had intertwined with his own. "I will stay," Mark said quietly, his voice steady but full of emotion. "I belong here now, with you and with your people." The princess's eyes shimmered with tears, but she smiled. "Then we face the future together," she whispered. And they did. From that day on, Mark's life was no longer defined by orders or duty alone. He taught, he protected, and he guided the people of Zareth, showing them the strength of human courage, ingenuity, and heart. He fought when necessary, yes, but he also inspired, showing that even the smallest and most fragile creatures could make a difference in a vast and dangerous galaxy. The twin suns rose higher, casting light across the city and the palace gardens. Mark and Lyria stood together on the balcony, watching the world awake.
He had come as a soldier.
But he remained as something more, a protector, a friend, a symbol of what humanity could bring to the stars. And in that quiet, beautiful moment, Mark understood something he had always known deep in his heart. Humans were fragile. Yes, but within that fragility burned courage, loyalty, and love strong enough to guard a princess. challenge a galaxy and create hope where none had existed before. He had started as a stranger on an alien world, but now with the princess by his side, he truly belonged. Humans might be small, their bodies fragile, but their hearts, Mark's heart, could shine brighter than alien suns. And in that light, the galaxy had found a hero.